we're going to have Brad Pedersen next, who's going to talk about the CalVet home loans. So getting into specific programs now. And Brad, if you click on the green share screen button, you'll be able to, there you go.
All set. Good morning, everybody. I'm always excited to get to talk to veterans about our program. I talk at a lot of different groups, and I go out and talk at a lot of the TAPS programs at the base, but what I have found is the best way for me to start seems to be if I tell you the history of CalVet home loans. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a little history lesson to begin with. It was about 1921. And in 1921, what was happening was our World War I veterans were coming home from overseas. And the state of California at that time, the people of California at that time were very patriotic. They were very excited that these people were coming home. And the state of California said, hey, what could we do as a state government above and beyond the federal benefits that they've earned? What could we do as a state government to say thank you to the veterans? And so what they did is they started the Farm and Home Loan Program. Farm and Home Loan Program. It was actually started 99 years ago. And I say that because we're pretty excited that next year we'll be turning 100 years old. Around 1943, we officially became one of the branches. Just like the military has different branches, the California Department of Veterans Affairs has different branches. My branch was known in 1943 as the Farm and Home Loan Branch. And if you go up to our building across from the State Capitol building in Sacramento today and go up to the second floor, you'll still see on the front door, it says Farm and Home Loan. And I kind of point that out for a couple of reasons. One, I want to explain, we've been around 99 years. We've been around a long time. And in that 99 years, we've come up with lots of different programs for lots of different needs for lots of different veterans over 99 years. And I think what happened with the world of the internet is people started to take snippets. They would take a little piece of one of our programs and take another little piece of another program, and they would kind of combine all these pieces into an article and publish it on the internet. And the information, and I don't think it was intentional, but it was wrong. It was kind of misleading. It wouldn't be actually our programs. It would be a mismatch of programs put together. And so because of that, there was a lot of misunderstandings. Today, still, there's lots of myths. There's lots of questions that I get all the time that are just kind of, I think, the evolution of that mismatching. One of the most common questions that I get that is confusing to people is it used to be, years ago, it used to be, you had to have entered service from the state of California to even apply for a CalVet loan. You had to have entered service from the state of California to apply. But that's no longer the case. Any military veteran or active duty personnel from anywhere in the world, regardless of where they entered service, can apply for the CalVet loan. They have to qualify. They have to come and occupy within 60 days of closing in California. But they can apply from anywhere. I've had people who have been in Germany and applied and actually purchased the home to move to March Air Force Base and moved in from another area, never having been in California before. So that's one of the things that's often misunderstood. But the number one question, and I'll get to it right away, is people will ask me, they'll say, Brad, well, what's the difference between VA and what's in CalVet? What's the difference? Or if they're really honest with me, they'll say, Brad, what's better, VA or CalVet? And I've gotten that question literally thousands of times, thousands and thousands of times. And I've learned that I have one answer that seems to resonate with most people. Excuse me, shut this off. And so I'm going to tell it to you so that you could maybe help me pass it along so people will understand. And here's what I tell them. Here's how I say it. I say, well, first off, when we're talking about federal VA, in general, when we're talking about the federal VA home loan program, you first have to understand federal VA doesn't actually loan money. Federal VA guarantees the money. Now, what that's like is it's sort of like an insurance policy that any lender can access that makes a loan to a veteran in any county in the United States, and that insurance policy kind of guarantees that lender in the event the veteran doesn't make payments, goes south, defaults on the loan, the federal government's going to come in and help make that lender whole. They guarantee the first 25% of the loan, basically. Now, I want to be super clear. I want no one to misunderstand me. I love the federal VA home loan program. I think the federal VA home loan program is one of the very best programs for a veteran to consider right away. I am not opposed or in competition with the federal VA home loan program. As a matter of fact, if you think about the whole premise of CalVet home loans, CalVet was designed by our state government to help veterans get into homes. So we're kind of odd. We're not commissioned salespeople. We're benefits officers. And we're trained when someone calls us to always tell them the truth, always give them the best advice, even if that means not coming to CalVet. Every week, I suggest to people that in their situation, they may want to look into this type of a loan. For instance, the IRRRL loan, I think is a fantastic option right now. And I don't mind helping veterans find somebody else to do the IRRRL. We don't do that at CalVet. Now, CalVet, who are we? We're the state of California acting as a lender. We're sort of like a nonprofit. We're not actually commissioned salespeople. The goal of the program is to be self-supporting, which it is. It's never taken a dollar to pay any of our loans from the state of California ever since it's been in existence. The idea of the CalVet Home Loan Program is to provide resources for those veterans who are falling through the cracks, who have special needs, who need somebody to really help them. Let me go to the next slide. So usually when I've explained kind of that to somebody, they'll say, well, Brad, what do I get, right? What do I get? Why would I want to go with CalVet? You see, my favorite loan that CalVet does, because we have many programs, and I don't have time to talk about all of them today, but my favorite loan is when we take that federal VA home loan benefit and we combine it with this, I call it a bucket of benefits that CalVet has for veterans. And we do a CalVet / VA loan, we put them together. 1 + 1 is 2. You get more stuff. You get the federal benefits and the state benefits put together. That's my favorite loan, and I think it's the favorite loan of everyone in the department. So people would say naturally, well, what do I get? What's that bucket of benefits? Well, a lot of veterans know about a lot of the benefits that CalVet already has, like the fee waiver for your children to go to college if you have a 0 rating. But I think one of the strong ones that I should talk about today in this short period of time I have is how we underwrite. We are pretty much different than everybody. I think 98, 99% of all lenders today basically take a loan application and they type it into the computer, and at some point they hit enter. And at some point that computer will run your application through a bunch of rules, and at the end it will spit out what's called a desktop underwriting approval. Now, one of the ways I kind of know a veteran probably went through this system and didn't get an approval is they call me and they say, Brad, what's your minimum FICO score? You see, FICO scores tend to be one of those rules that will just be an automatic decline to some people if their FICO score is too low when you're going through that type of a system. CalVet does not have a minimum FICO score. We don't have a minimum FICO score. That's really unusual. Doesn't mean you can have horrible credit. Doesn't mean that at all. What it means is we're going to look at the things that probably led to that low credit score. We're going to evaluate what happened. How are you doing now? Have you made payments on time for 12 months in a row? Have you made payments on time for 24 months in a row? In general, with CalVet, if you've made payments on time for 24 months, we consider that very good credit. A lot of times a veteran will have maybe gone through what we call a credit event. Something happened in their life and their FICO score might be 573 and they're having trouble getting any lender to work with them. But when we take the time to look at what happened in that credit event and we go, oh, you went through a divorce 3.5 years ago, everything went horrible, but I see you've been making payments on time for 13 months now. A lot of times, many times, we're able to go ahead and give them an approval to go out and purchase a property, even though that FICO score is much lower than most lenders would want to see. I'm going to keep moving along. Our loan limits. So with CalVet and doing that loan I talked about, it's possible to get a loan with zero down up to $957,000. Now, this isn't as big of a deal as it was a year ago because of January 1st, lenders don't have any limits. VA took the limit off of the federal VA home loan program. So technically you could get a $58 billion VA loan if you can find a lender who will make it. Now, what I'm told and what I think most people find is there are lenders who will make these higher loan limits, but typically they have higher requirements on their FICO scores, on the income, when you get up into the higher loan limits. CalVet will look at a veteran the same if they're borrowing $200,000 or $957,000 with zero down payment. Even in the least expensive counties of California, we'll go up to $638,000, as you can see in your chart. And I have people who laugh at me up in Northern California, way up north, because they'll say, we don't really even have any properties in the 600,000s. But we find most veterans can find a home in these price ranges depending on the counties as it adjusts for the high level of the cost. One of my favorite questions is when someone calls me and says, Brad, I had a short sale or a foreclosure. Is there anything you can do for me? And you see, I want to tell you, because a lot of our military population has gone through this because of change of station. You bought a property, you moved in, you had every intention of making all the payments, and then you had a change of station and you had to go somewhere else and you rented it out. You tried to make payments. Eventually, you just couldn't do it. And the property was short sold or foreclosed. You are not alone. This is a very common problem with veterans. And I love the answer that I get to give because CalVet is very unique. I don't know of another lender who does this. There could be one, but I don't know of them. What we do is we first take a look at that certificate of eligibility and we see what your remaining entitlement is. Now, let me tell a story about it. Maybe that makes more sense. Typical veteran would go to the lender on the corner and they would walk in this situation and they would say, I'd like to buy a home. And the lender will look up their certificate of eligibility and entitlement and they'll do the math, which is kind of weird. Always have a lender help you with it because it doesn't make a lot of sense. They'll do the math and they might say something like this. They'll say, based on the remaining entitlement you have on your certificate of eligibility, you could buy a home for $300,000 with zero down payment if you qualify using your VA. And typically maybe in that situation for round numbers, the veteran says, well, that's great, but I want to buy a home for $400,000. And at that point, the lender would say, well, here's what we can do. We can take 25% of the differential or $25,000, put that down, and you can still get a VA loan with $25,000 down on a $400,000 home, which may be a fantastic deal. I still think it's maybe a really good deal, something to really consider. But what's nice about CalVet is we do something unique. Now, only Brad, only me calls it this, but I call it secondary entitlement. Because what we actually do is we take a look at the loan package and we say, well, this veteran has a $300,000 eligibility. They want to buy a $400,000 loan. How good is the application? Do we think this veteran is going to default on us? That's basically the question we're going to look at. And if we think this is going to be a good loan, many, many times we'll go ahead and we'll come alongside federal VA, hold hands, join forces, and we'll do a zero down $400,000 CalVet/VA home loan. We'll get it done. Now, sometimes we can't. Sometimes maybe in my scenario, they wanted 600,000 and they've got a 300,000 eligibility. And we just say, well, we just can't stretch that much. But what we'll almost always do is individually look at each situation and try to give them a little bit of a hand up. Try to, maybe we'd say something like, in your case, give us 10,000 down, and I think we'll be able to do this loan. We'll always try to reach out and help that veteran. This also would pertain if they have a home. A lot of times, it seems I get a lot of veterans who own a condo in Virginia, and now they've come out to California. And that would be active use of their VA loan. So it's actively being used on one property. They want to come buy another one, but because they've got one taking some of that insurance policy, I talked about the loan guarantee, their loan amount would be much less. Again, we could apply this principle to help them in that situation. So one of the funnest parts of when I get to talk, especially in person, which I am dying to get back out in person, I'm stuck in a bedroom right now in my home talking to you, is I get to talk about the stories about how we really care and what we do. And I like to talk about it, but what happened to me is I came from the private sector. I had worked for many, many years in the lending and the real estate field outside, and I was basically getting ready to retire. And I had done CalVet loans, and I talked with the people at CalVet, and they said, we would love for you to come and do this. And so I did. And so my first week with CalVet, I was up in Sacramento walking around, and they were having me shadow everybody. So I was shadowing the processors, the loan officers, the underwriters. I was seeing what they were doing. And one thing kept hitting me is how flexible we were, how hard they were working to make veterans get into the homes, how they were not looking at the FICO score, how they had higher loan limits than any lenders at that time, especially, how they were doing all these things extra to help the veterans get into houses. And so my business mind, because I'm kind of a math guy, I said, you know what? CalVet probably has a ton of foreclosures. They probably have a lot of properties that go into cancellation. So I had to look it up because it was important for me to know. I looked it up and I found out, and I was kind of shocked, and I didn't understand it at the time, that CalVet has maintained one of the very lowest mortgage cancellation rates in the entire nation for many, many, many years. It's rare that you'll see more than one or two homes for sale that we've taken back. And we have a $1 billion portfolio. But it's very rare. And most of our veterans that we end up taking a home back, it's because they passed away and they didn't have any family. But what I've learned now that I've been there for a little over 5 years is when a veteran gets into any kind of trouble, you see, we don't sell our loans. I didn't really say that. We always, once you're with CalVet, you're always with CalVet. They're going to watch you the whole 30 years. They're going to take care of you. They're going to help you and your spouse. A couple of weeks ago, I was on the phone with the spouse of a veteran who had just passed. Her husband had just passed away. And we were discussing what's the best option for her. She had some insurance money, and we were just trying to help her through what would be good. We're going to be there for you the full 30 years. CalVet is going to have your back. And so what I have found is I like to talk about some of the actual situations. This is a letter that came in September 27th. I grabbed it because I think it is actually kind of our normal veteran who works with us. In the letter, he basically says he had encountered a lot of obstacles in getting a home. He had a lot of doors slammed in his face. He just wasn't able to make it happen, so he had become very skeptical. Luckily, someone along the way had suggested, why don't you call CalVet? So he called CalVet, and our loan officer started working with him. They got him pre-approved. He went out and he purchased a property. He went through the whole thing. And at the very end, and he says it's very touching that he actually cried when he found out he was a homeowner, that it had all happened. And he was just saying, this is amazing that, you know, you guys are doing these things above and beyond for veterans. I can think of, I actually got an email this morning from a fourth homeless veteran that we have put into housing. A lot of veterans are living on the streets and they need some help. And they're not going to buy the most expensive homes. But if somebody will reach down and help them, put all the pieces together of the puzzle, how to get some help, how to get some income, what they need to do, a lot of them can buy homes. I can think of 4 at this very moment that we were able to help get into homes. This is a letter from one, and I threw this one in because he said I was very homeless and very lost, which is just, I mean, that is it. That is it. He was homeless and lost. And he needed someone to take the time to walk him through the process and to stick with him. And he was able to buy a home. I talked about a month ago to a homeless veteran I met at the Bob Hope Pavilion in Los Angeles, which is around the corner from Skid Row. And a homeless veteran had come in looking for help. And I got to talk to him for a couple minutes, and I saw he had a fire in his belly. He did not want to live on the streets anymore. And he started a process that took, I think, about 1.5 years to get his benefits, to get everything in order. And he bought a home. And he and I were talking on the phone, and he was saying, I just can't believe it. I own a home now. He did move out of LA about, I think it's about 45 minutes away from Los Angeles inland, and was able to buy his own home. And he's an artist, and he has a little like barn set up for his art, and he's doing fantastic. CalVet will take the time to help these veterans and help them achieve that goal. I used to talk about the review of the different things CalVet does at this point, but lately I've been talking mainly about insurance, because I knew we had a great insurance policy. You see, and I better preface it, you only get the CalVet insurance if your loan funds through CalVet. So if you have a VA loan with another lender, I'm sorry, you can't get the CalVet insurance. You can only get it if your loan funds through CalVet. And the reason the insurance is great is it's kind of like an old-fashioned policy from the late 70s, early 80s. It's full replacement cost guarantee. The deductible is $250 on hazard insurance, $250 on fire insurance, $500 on flood insurance, $500 or 5% on earthquake insurance. And it doesn't matter if you're buying a house next to the Russian River that overflows, it seems, every few years, or if you're buying a house in San Francisco on top of a hill built in 1911, you're still going to get that insurance. It's kind of like a Costco insurance, like Reston had said. This is a group policy for all the veterans in California. So it's a discounted policy also. It's a fantastic policy. But I didn't really understand it, because I'm not an insurance guy, how great it was until we had the Paradise fires. Huge disaster. In that huge disaster up there, actually 26 homes for CalVet burnt to the ground. And what I found out through that disaster is that many, many homeowners watched their homes go down, thought that they were fully insured, but because of the cost of materials skyrocketing with the huge damage, and because the cost of labor skyrocketed in that area, all of a sudden they found out that they were underinsured. The amount of insurance they had on their homes was not enough to cover the rebuild. Many of them are still waiting for help. All 26 homes that were insured by CalVet have been rebuilt or are in the process of being rebuilt for $250. It's a fantastic policy. It's full replacement cost guarantee, and make sure your home gets rebuilt. Some people are actually calling us to refinance because they're in those areas, and the insurance policy offsets the cost to refinance because the insurance has gone up so much. Some people were just canceled, I guess. But let me be clear, I love mortgage brokers. I love working with other lenders, and I constantly suggest to veterans, you should look at these options. It's a part of every talk I do, and we're going to get there, I think, in a moment. It's not always the best idea to come to CalVet, and we're very clear and honest about that. But I think it's a good idea to call us for advice, to see what we would suggest you consider. Here's the slide I was just thinking of. So I like to talk to every population that I talk to about the different things you should do when you're going to buy a home. I like to go through what you should do, and I don't have much time today. So I would just tell you, you need to ask for help. Military personnel in general don't want to ask for help. They'll figure it out on their own. Don't do that. Ask your realtor, hey, do I get a discount from escrow? Do I get a discount from title? Do I get a discount from the home inspector? Do I get a discount from termite? You'll find if you'll ask, you'll probably get discounts from all 4 of those. Go pay for a refrigerator probably. You need to ask. You need to talk to other mortgage professionals. You need to talk to other lenders. You need to talk to the city and the county that you're buying in to see what housing programs they have. I suggest the words down payment assistance. Do you have any down payment assistance programs available? There's a couple programs I'm going to highlight that are not CalVet. Well, let me tell you my last CalVet program first. CalVet found that a lot of our veterans were struggling in one area. They were typically looking to buy the lowest price homes in the areas they lived in. And they were writing offers, and they were not getting their offers accepted because they were saying, I want to buy 0 down. I want the seller to pay all my closing costs. I want to come in with no money out of my pocket. And the sellers were basically saying, hey, we got multiple offers. We don't have to pay your closing costs. We're not going to take your offer. So we sat down and we looked through our files of our old programs, and we actually pulled one out, dusted it off, and we were able to come up with this. If a veteran is at 80% or less of the adjusted median income in the county that they want to purchase in, and if they haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, there's a good chance they'll qualify for this special program we came out with. We take that CalVet VA loan, we put them together and do 100% VA loan financing. And then if they qualify, we come behind that with an additional loan for 3% of the purchase price that they can use to pay their closing costs. And in order that they don't lose any of their loan power, their purchase power, we set it up that they have the option of not making payments for up to 10 years on that small 3% loan. They can make payments day one if they want to. And it's at the same interest rate as the first. We're not trying to make extra money. We were trying to find a way to shuffle them some money to pay closing costs. So now we're finding that a lot of these loans are being accepted. They get 100% VA CalVet loan, 0 down, and they get a 3% loan to pay their own closing costs. So they don't have to ask the seller to pay their costs for them. It's a great program. 2 other programs that are not CalVet that I'm going to mention real fast, I'm probably getting close to time, is one of my favorite programs. It's not a CalVet program. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. It's called a mortgage assistance program. I'm pretty sure a lot of the lenders online today could tell you about it too. In general, counties and cities may have this as down payment assistance. I talk about my favorite city program that's offered in Santa Ana, California a lot. Santa Ana, California offers a down payment assistance program if you qualify for up to $80,000 at 0% interest, no payments due for 45 years. That's a fantastic program. 80 grand, 0% interest, due in 45 years. But on top of that, what Santa Ana did, a little twist, is they said, hey, if you went to high school in Santa Ana, graduated, got a 4-year degree, come back and use our program, we will deduct $10,000 every 5 years, up to 40 grand off what you owe us if you use the program. It's a fantastic program. And I say that because every county and every city may have similar programs. You need to check wherever you're going to buy. Call the city and county housing department and ask, do you have any down payment assistance programs? Another program, again, not a CalVet program, but you should know about it, that I think is fantastic, is called the WISH program. The WISH program was basically brought on to incentivize people to save money to buy a home. So what they say in general is look, for every dollar you save up to $5,500, we will match it if you qualify with a grant of $4 to 1. So if you save $5,500 and you qualify for the program, you could get a $22,000 grant. And I love the word grant because that means you may not have to pay it back. In general, I believe after 5 years, it's forgiven. Again, it's not a CalVet program. Be glad to talk to you about it. I just think you should know about it. The last thing I'll tell you is how to apply for CalVet home loan if you're interested. The easiest way to apply is to go on our website at calvet.ca.gov. On the home loan page, you can click on the Apply Now button, and it's literally a one-page form that'll take you 2 minutes to get things started. They're going to, after you fill that one-page form out, you'll get an automatic response that'll say, thanks for applying for your CalVet loan. Get your DD-214 together or statement of service if you're active duty, 2 months pay stubs, 2 months bank statements, all pages, and 2 years W-2s. And that's pretty much usually mostly what they need. A loan officer is going to call you within 48 hours and go over your personal situation with you. I would implore you, if you know any veteran that is stressing over any type of a VA loan, whether they're in California or another state, any veteran who has questions about VA disability, any kind of a question you think a veteran needs answered, you can tell them, I have a friend at the state. This is his main number. He would love to help you. Give Brad a call, and I will help them from the bottom of my heart, do the very best I can. Thanks so much for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
Brad, really thank you for your presentation. And I think one thing that comes across is that it's surprising to me that it's not a CalVet only or VA only or anything else only, and that there's a collaboration in there. And really appreciate you're highlighting the options that are available to vets. So this ties in with other things. So are there any other questions?
Yeah, there was a question from Arthur. He says, if you have a VA loan, can we do a CalVet loan on our same house as a refi?
Well, technically you probably could, but probably I would end up, when I look at their situation, suggesting they do not. I would probably suggest they do a IRRRL loan and go to another lender for the IRRRL. But I would look at each situation individually because it's different. It depends where they live. It depends on the loan amount. Sometimes we have people who need a refi for a very small loan amount, and most lenders don't want to deal with the real small loans. And to us, whether it's 100,000 or 700, we treat it the same. So sometimes it's worth calling us and just talking. And a lot of the conversations I have that are about loans end up into a whole different area where I find a veteran who has never applied for a service-related disability, never even heard of it, doesn't know all the benefits. And I say that's more valuable today than anything we could have covered on the refinance. You need to get started on that, and I'm happy to help them with that.
Can we have your contact information one more time, Brad?
Sure. Let's see here. And that is a direct number, the 916. And I say that because it's basically a cell phone, because I usually am traveling up and down the state, going to the different bases, but it will always follow me, and we'll always try to get back to you as soon as I can.
Brad, this is Paul Wersham. We've been doing this for quite a while, and I'm just shocked by how much new information I got today, that stuff that I didn't know about CalVet. So I think we need to do this again, and probably again, to get really all of the information out that's of great value to veterans, really no matter what era they're from. So we will have you back again, and thank you so much for a very concise and informative presentation.
Thanks, Paul. I would love to help you. And I do a presentation where we also go into veterans benefits. I usually bring someone alongside me. And I think that would be super valuable for your group, because I think personally, from my experience, about 70% of the veterans in California have no idea what benefits are available to them.
Yes, I would agree from my little
Get that
experience.
information out. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.